Hello, Féadha. How are you doing? Is the sun shining where you are?
It's as much as I can in Ireland. Yeah.
Yeah.
How's it over there?
It was nice yesterday, but the clouds are back, so it's a bit deep. It's a bit deep. I'm trying to stay cheery. But yeah, I think I'm excited to be speaking to you. I think you're a special person with amazing positive energy, and yeah, I think it'd be really fun to just dive into like your acting experiences and stuff like that. I'm like really mellow right now. Do you know what? I'm a little bit hungover. You know what I mean?
That's so unprofessional. I would never ever do that on one of your sets. I've definitely done that on one of your sets.
Not that you should tell us that.
No.
But yeah, so I mean, what do you think like right now in terms of, because I spoke to an actor a couple of days ago. And,
yeah, I saw it was really good, by the way.
Yeah, he's a really nice guy actually, and he was in my first short film, basically my first proper short film, when I was in my first year at UE, and like I was really nervous about directing or whatever, and I remember I think I just found him on like Star Now, sent him a message, and yeah, he was really nice and just offered to be, and it means so much when you're starting out and someone's like, yeah, I'll do it, and
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that was
very... Yeah, no, it's a leap of faith for both of you, really, isn't it?
Yeah, in a lot of ways, but yeah, it was interesting what he was saying about like, what it must be like to be an actor looking for work now is kind of crazy. Have you been like trying to hook into like the webinars and stuff, or?
So I was just before lockdown was announced in the UK. I was still in the UK at the time, and I was in the middle of filming something with these, actually they were also UE students. So we were in the middle of filming, and then I was also due to be flying to Donegal to do like my friend's final year project, basically. So it was like on this high, working all the time. It was like finally going in the right place, and then Bojo decided to shut the country down. It's rather inconvenient. But since being back, I think that was one of the big pressures I felt about being back, was I can't work if I'm back in Ireland. I can't work in my like day job, and I also can't do any acting work. Thankfully, because of the wonders of technology, I can still do my day job online. But I was like, shit, like I'm not going to be able to act anymore. And then I kind of decided that maybe that was okay for the time being, to just kind of take a step back and be like, okay, the whole world is like grieving right now. You need to just process what the fuck is going on and sort yourself out, because otherwise you're going to be of no use to anyone. Do you know what I mean? I'm just going to burn out, and then I wouldn't have even been able to go near an acting job. So at the moment, I haven't really been making that a priority. It's been more about just stepping back and kind of reassessing my priorities and spending time with the family and spending time with the dog.
The retriever.
Gorgeous retriever. With an IQ of about 10, bless him. But in a way, yeah, like I was freaking out, you know what I mean? It was like, shit, like I'm not gonna be able to act. And I spoke to Mum about it, and she was like, well, maybe, you can take this time to kind of have a look at what it is actually that you want to do. Because I moved to the UK about nearly 5 years ago. I was like, yeah, I'm going to uni, I'm going to go study acting, I'm going to go and make it. And then I'd come home and they'd be like, okay, well, like, what have you done to show for yourself? And all I would have is like student films. And while that's great, there's also not like feeding me or paying the bills or anything like that. So there was a lot of like internal pressure of like, fuck, I'm not doing enough. I'm not being paid for any of this. I'm just doing this for exposure. Like I was having a whale of a time, and I've thankfully been involved in some mad projects, but there was still that pressure of like, okay, but like, what have you to prove it for it? So now it's really nice to come back and be like, okay, well, maybe I don't just have to go straight into films and become like an international superstar. Maybe I can focus on other things that I like. Like, I grew up dancing as well. That's a huge part of who I am. And so now I kind of can take that step and maybe do a bit more dancing, or like get involved with other projects that that interest me.
How are you like navigating the pressure to be active? Because I think a lot of creatives right now are probably going through that a little bit of a dilemma of like not being able to really do much, but also wanting to stay active in some form. And like, as you're saying, it's really important. I think a really important time to take a break and think about what you really want to do in your life and in what capacity. So I was just wondering if like maybe, yeah, how you're maybe navigating that balance between putting too much pressure on yourself and not and just being able to chill out and reflect, you know.
I think everything in moderation, including moderation, is something that I think is very important. I think you need to be able to take breaks, and you need to look after yourself as well. I think you need to like take that step back and mind yourself. And I don't think that's maybe something that's taught. It's definitely not taught in Irish schools. But it's not something that's taught very often, about like doing that, being selfish and taking time for yourself and finding what works for you. I think it's not just for actors, but for anyone, is that like you need to look after yourself mentally and physically, because otherwise you'll just end up getting really sick. And you can make yourself sick as well with the worrying of like, oh my God, I'm not doing enough. What I did when I was still in Bristol was I joined like a class as a drop-in class on a Monday, run by this woman named Ella. And she does like a drop-in class for a particular technique called Meisner technique. And it's just something that I really loved, but I thought that was great that I could still work Tuesday to Sunday and then have this drop-in class of like a dedicated, okay, this is when I go, and maybe I don't get involved this week, but at least I'm witnessing somebody else acting. I'm witnessing somebody else be creative.
What's Meisner?
What's Meisner? Oh yeah. God, okay. I love it. I just really hope I can explain it in a decent way, because I'm quite shite at that. So Sanford Meisner was the guy who came up with the technique, and it's basically living truthfully under a given set of circumstances. So it's about observing and responding to impulses and behavior. That, yeah, sounds like a load of madness. And it is. And it's bizarre when you take someone to watch it for the first time and they're like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on? But basically, it's about, you kind of, some of the exercises are like repetition exercises. And it basically, what it does is it gets rid of the meaning of the words, and you're just focusing on the other person. You're driving your attention onto the other person and observing like what's going on in their body. Do you know what I mean? God, I'm so shy to explaining this. I really need to get like a good spiel. People always ask me about it. I'm like, ah! But I love it. I think it's fantastic. It's mad what it can bring up, because it's all about being there in the moment, you know.
I guess it's hard to explain stuff that is a little bit more abstract in nature, right?
Yeah.
But it does sound interesting. And what I think is also interesting is like, yeah, you mentioned that, yeah, you know, like you also dance as well, and obviously like movement and stuff is so important in acting, and what you're suggesting there about the Meisner technique.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's about, focusing on another person. And like, what I find really interesting is why like drama at school is like considered such a DOS subject, when from what I've heard from actors is that like, there's some stuff that you learn from doing drama that's like really healthy. Like, I sometimes feel I'm annoyed that I didn't get to like kind of flex those muscles, because I feel like there's so much in even just making a fool of yourself in front of other people that's so important.
Yes.
For like your mind going forward in life, right?
What I find with the Meisner stuff in particular is that there's a lot of like impulses that we ignore in ourselves, like on a day-to-day basis, and it's stuff that we haven't, like you said, you haven't learned. You don't know how to express that, because you just haven't been taught, and that's, it's not your fault at all. But when I go there and somebody like will observe something, like say my lip will be quivering and I won't even know it, and then suddenly I'm like, oh fuck, I'm like bawling tears, like where the hell did this come from? And it might be stuff that you might have been carrying that you didn't even realize. Now, I'm not saying it's like therapy. It's not. You shouldn't use it as therapy. Some people do. They shouldn't. But it's mad what it can bring up in you. I always think that you guys are so lucky, though, that it's even a subject. In Ireland, the land, what is it? The land of, oh God, I should know this, scholars and playwrights, something like that. We don't have drama as a subject. We don't even get the chance to study it. Yeah.
What?
And we're supposed to be like, we have some of the best theatres in the world. We have some of the best playwrights, some amazing actors at the moment that are doing really well, but no fucking chance to study theatre. We're like, what's that about?
It's crazy. Why is that, do you think?
Oh God, we could get into that. I think we're technically like a sectarian country, but we're not. For years, the government and the church have not been separate. And now they technically are, but they're not really. So I went to a Catholic school, unfortunately, but it was the best in the area, considering. And so they still have a huge say over what's taught. For example, I didn't have any sexual health education until I was in, I think, 5th year. I don't know what that is in the UK, but let's say I was about 17.
17. Wow.
So it was our second last year of secondary school, basically.
Wow.
And we had this group, oh my God, I can't remember what they were called, but they came in and they were teaching us that, masturbation leads to depression, that it's offensive to wear a condom because it's the woman's right to bear children. They got people up at the top of the classroom and like sellotaped their arms together and then tore it off and then sellotaped to other people, and they were like, see, this is the bond that's been like broken if you sin. So that, yeah, there's so much wrong with the Irish school system. It's unbelievable. And the only reason actually that we had these people come in was because my stepdad objected to the fact that we were one of 7 schools in Ireland with no sexual health education program.
Wow, that's crazy. I mean, is it? Firstly, do you consider yourself like to be religious and like believe in God? And if so, how detrimental is it when there's like this structural kind of like backwardness that has infiltrated like spiritual principles in so many ways?
I think it's extremely detrimental whether I'm religious or not. I think it's absolutely appalling that a structured religion can have that much influence over a government. I think it's, oh my God, it makes me so fucking angry. at the amount of shit that the Catholic Church, and it's not just the Catholic Church, I know that, it's most structured religions that I have a problem with, but I can only speak from experience. So I'm not saying that it's just them, like I know that everyone's at fault. But the amount of shite that they've gotten away with and the amount of damage that they have done to this country and the people, it's heartbreaking. I don't know if you heard about, there was a mass grave discovered a few years ago in Chaoimhe, which is in the west of Ireland, and it was something like over 800 corpses, an unmarked grave of babies between newborn and 3 years old, and these were in the care of the Catholic Church. So Irish women, if they were unmarried and had a child, then they were sent away to the laundries, and it's just, yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I have a big problem with religion because of that. My grandfather was an extremely religious man. I always used to joke that it went God, Diarmid O'Keefe, and Jesus. Bless him. He was very, very devout Catholic, and very proudly Catholic. And then on the other hand, my mum and my stepdad had 3 pagan hand fastings for their weddings. They didn't get married in a church, they got married in a field. So my mom is like, she would be very spiritual, and then my stepdad is extremely atheist. So I grew up with like 3 completely conflicting views. So I'm still trying to figure it out. Now that I'm like away from my parents' influence and I'm living independently, I'm kind of trying to explore, you know, what is it that I actually believe in, or what gives me comfort, or what brings me solace. And it's mad how hard that was, because I grew up with 3 such conflicting views. Do you know what I mean? Now, Mum was always like, go and believe whatever you want to believe. That's fine, within reason. But yeah, it's mad how much it has influenced the way I think. So it's been interesting trying to like break down those walls now and explore for myself, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting that what I've found is that people who are raised to be very religious and get it kind of forced on them, you know, from a young age, whether it be like Catholicism or Islam or whatever it is like, I feel like there's something a little bit risky with that, because eventually that child is going to grow up and going to start questioning the world, or, you know, not always, but often will question the world and maybe start questioning their faith. And if things have been sort of shoved down their throat in such a way, you're almost making them more prone to throw away the version of religion that they've been given growing up. And but then I also think it's interesting as well that, you know, there's people who aren't raised religious who then are attracted to religion. Is like another interesting phenomenon. And I think it's like, yeah, there's this really weird like disconnect between like the principles behind religion and the way it's kind of orchestrated in society. And yeah, I think that perhaps it has to be something that's very personal, like you're saying, that you're still figuring it out. It's like probably the most empowering form of like religion and spirituality is the kind of stuff that you're able to figure out yourself, you know, without that external influence, maybe.
I think there's something, like when you were saying about people finding it themselves, as opposed to it being like put on them from a child. There's something really, really lovely and comforting about going to mass on a Sunday and knowing what the priest is going to say and being with a community. And there's a real sense of, maybe for people who, like, for example, Irish people who had to emigrate to America and other places, going to mass and being with basically a family. Do you know what I mean? There's something really, and I'm still the same. I still love going into churches. I still find that there's a really nice familiar atmosphere there. So I can understand that for some people it's really comforting. It is like finding a family, or, you know, it's not really nice to think about being completely alone, and when you die you go to worms, and, you know, some people need a little more than that, or just someone to talk to. So I can completely understand it. Yeah. Were you raised religious?
Not at all, actually. Yeah, not at all. Like, both of my parents are just like in a lot of ways atheist. I think, I don't know. I don't really. I guess it's just not really. I think like their parents, so like my dad's parents were like religious, coming from like sort of West Africa and everything, and then my grandmother was raised in like Scotland, probably like Protestant, old school vibe, whatever it is that goes on, whatever it is that goes on there. But yeah, no, I'm not having me raised religious, but probably for that reason, I have like a fresher curiosity in it, and have explored it, yeah, and come to like, yeah, kind of really think that yeah, I guess that like I don't know, I guess like that, yeah, I have some kind of faith in like a higher being, but I'm like you, I'm still figuring it out. I don't have a fucking clue what any of this is. And yeah, perhaps it's just a process. But yeah. How much, so what's really crazy as well is that, like, so at some point the Catholic Church decides that acting and theatre is not compatible with education. Like, when
I don't know if that's like, I don't know if all the bishops got together and they were like, yo, let's keep them away from acting. I don't know, but I do know that they have a big say on what is taught. And I do know that that's, in Ireland, you go straight from, so you've got like junior infants, senior infants, all of primary school, you go straight to secondary school. You're legally obligated to go till you're 18. And we don't really have it over here that you go to like separate schools or anything like that after your junior cert or like your GCSEs. Usually you would stay in the same school. There are some like grinds schools, but that's just like, if you know that you want to go to college or university and do a specific course, you will go there, and it's really academic, and it's really intensive. So over here you just go straight through, and then you're supposed to just go straight to college, and it's not really, acting isn't really seen as an option. It's all the arts, or science is a really big thing over here now at the moment, which is fantastic. Or French. Everyone fucking does French over here. I don't know why. So yeah, acting and art isn't really a priority, I would say.
what made you want to pursue it then?
Well, I grew up basically in the wings. My grandmother was a wardrobe mistress for 30 odd years. My mum was a community artist and also helped out making costumes with my grandmother. And so our front room in Muddy's house, my grandmother's house, was just full of costumes. And so, yeah, I grew up in the wings of the theatre, you know. My mum and my biological father met on a film set. And so I always used to joke that it's literally in my blood. But I don't know, I have really, really bad stage fright. It used to be a lot worse. Like the very first time I went on stage was for the nativity play. I was about 3. I got up there, it was Angel Gabriel, and I was like strutting up and down the kitchen the night before, reciting my lines, so fucking excited. We found a photo the other day. I went to sleep in my costume, like I was so excited. And then I got up on stage and saw everyone and just like broke down. I just couldn't do it. I think they had to get Santa to come and get me off the stage. There was no Angel Gabriel that year.
You know what? Weirdly enough, I think I played Angel Gabriel in a nativity when I was like that age as well.
Did you also hysterically cry?
I don't know. I don't think I did. I think I might have rode it out. I can't remember.
Fair play. You're stronger than me.
I don't know about that. Probably put me off doing it ever again, to be honest. Well, to be fair, I can't even remember being that age, so it's good that you could remember that far back.
I can. It's traumatizing.
Yeah, jeez. What like, do you have a preference between theatre and acting on screen, and what are the major challenges with the differences in the two forms?
So I would have grown up in a more theatre-based household. And yeah, my idea of a good film when I was younger was like Mulan, which I stand by because it's a fucking brilliant film. So I always grew up thinking, yeah, I'm going to be on stage. And then, I don't know what changed. Because I went on tour. I literally finished my leaving cert, which is like the A levels, got in the car after my last exam, and Mum handed me a script, and I went on tour for 3 months, which was fucking amazing. But then I came to Bristol, and I don't know. I guess I started making friends with filmmakers and trying that out. And it felt right. Do you know what I mean? I feel like while you can do a lot with theatre, I just really love film. And oh my God, sorry, I'm gonna just take a breath. I did comparative literature as part of my English module in school. And so we had to study and like dissect films and compare them to novels and stuff like that, which I adored. And so I think then studying film, even though it was only for a few weeks, I kind of got the bug, and started exploring maybe different types of film, and really enjoyed that a lot more than theatre. It just suits me, do you know what I mean? I feel like there's a lot more that you can do. I like a lot of maybe more, not so abstract, but maybe slightly more stylized films. And I think there's more, I just think there's a little bit more that you can do. Maybe slightly different as opposed to more than theatre.
Yeah, well, it's like, I think the art form in itself, acting by its nature is kind of diverse and has to be a bit adaptive. And for some reason in my mind, I thought of like a parallels, even like if you're a filmmaker or a director or whatever, you might only do drama or you might only do documentary, but there are some that can do both, right? And it's like, yeah, it's this weird kind of like, yeah, there's I feel like a lot of art forms probably have that, like there are different ways that you can do the art form. But yeah, do you have like, what's your kind of like dream role? If you could pick any role in the world, what would it be?
God, that's such a difficult question.
And do you have like a preference of the type of characters you like to play?
This may come as a surprise, but I usually get quite loud-mouthed characters. I like strong characters because I really love strong female role models. I think they're important. I usually end up playing quite opinionated people. But I feel like it's usually when I'm working with people I know, they kind of have me in mind. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like I'm still starting out. I feel like I would love to try everything. Do you know what I mean? I'd love to try everything and just see what works. I think I was supposed to be going off to Donegal and doing this horror film, which is something I would never dream of doing in a million years, purely because I'm scared of my own fucking shadow. Like I read the script and had nightmares for 3 days. And so I was like, yeah, okay, I really want to do this. Really, really want to do this. As a challenge. I love being challenged. I need to be pushed because otherwise it just gets stagnant. Do you know what I mean? So I'd love to do something like that. It's just completely different. It's something I would never pick for myself. So I don't know, my dream role would be something challenging, but I don't know what yet. I really like working as kind of like a team with people. I find that really important, that there has to be that mutual respect. No, but there has to be that mutual respect, and there has to be an understanding of like, okay, yeah, we're all on the same page about this. And I love when you work with people that you can talk to about your character. Do you know what I mean? I could turn around and say, okay, I get where you're going with this, but actually this is what I feel, you know, personally, this is what I draw from this character. So like, how do you feel about that? So I love things that are more of like a collaboration or like an ensemble. Like with theatre, I loved ensemble pieces. You work together and you build it together. So I'd love to do something like that. I think I'm just like so opinionated that I need someone who will listen and take that on board.
It must be like really, it's difficult, like in so many ways, like being in the actor's shoes, because like, you know, when you see it sometimes from, obviously I often like, you know, do the writing and like the filmmaking side of things. So it's like, though I dabble in acting,
I've seen
since COVID-19, but essentially, yeah, like there is something quite horrible and like dictatorial from like a filmmaker's standpoint. And like I've seen it in other filmmakers, the way they maybe handle characters or actors, and there really is like sometimes a lack of education and like empathy with like an actor's input to a role, right? Like I think like directors and writers can get so in their own head and think that they know exactly how something's supposed to be. And I think it's the collaborative element is way more important. And I don't really like the idea of, you know, like fucking, I think what's his name? You know, the old famous Hitchcock. He was sort of described actors as cattle at one point. And
oh no, he was an arse though.
Yeah, but like, you know, obviously an outstanding filmmaker, but like to what degree can, like, that's not, for me, that definitely takes away from your ability or your status as a filmmaker in some ways, if you only achieve that art by treating people a certain way. And do you know what I mean? I don't know, and it's difficult because obviously we're obsessed with like the mad geniuses and everything's for the art. It doesn't matter how many hearts are broken or how many backs were trodden on to create that piece of art. I just don't think that's actually that positive way of looking at it. And how do you maybe as an actor in the future look to try and navigate that? And especially being a woman, you know, and if, you know, there's additional challenges that come with that, especially with acting.
Yeah. It's funny. A few projects come to mind. I won't name names. I think, so there's a few things that have come up out of that. So I do agree that while his means weren't great, he did get what he wanted to achieve, Hitchcock that is. And I do think that while I just said I really love collaboration and stuff, sometimes you just need to shut up. Do you know what I mean? Like, directors have an idea of what they want it to look like, and that's fair enough. And sometimes your input is welcome, and sometimes you can talk about it, but other times you need to realize that they have a vision of what's going on. I think for me, and also being a woman, and mainly working with, thankfully, I've only really worked with friends. I've only ever worked with people that I respect and who respect me. Sometimes not equally, but there we go. No, but I tend to only really work with people that I respect and who respect me, and maybe even if we aren't friends, I like their vibe. I like where they're going with it. I like the idea. I won't work with someone who's an arsehole because there's just no fucking point. But I do think that it's really important for directors or any sort of filmmaker to have a go at, like, being on the other side of the camera. So well done you for your acting. Now you know how to deal with actors better. You know what it's like to be on the other side of the camera. I think it's really, really important, if you're going to be directing someone, that you understand what it is. There's a whole lingo, there's a whole vocabulary that you need to learn. Do you know what I mean?
My brother was horrible as well.
Comment.
No, it's funny. I mean, what's really funny is actually me and him being so close and whatever. He can just be mean to me, like, and I don't care because, like, we're brothers or whatever. But, like, that's actually you almost kind of want that bond, you know, with an actor where it's like, you know, you're on a level where it's like it's okay to, like, tug and pull a little bit with, you know what I mean? Because it's like you understand that it is a collaboration inevitably, and sometimes tempers do flare.
Yes, but, like, if you're wanting somebody to go to vulnerable places, and that doesn't always mean, like, being sad. If you want someone to be angry on screen, or it doesn't matter. If you want someone to go somewhere emotionally, you need to have that respect, and you need to have some sort of bond, even if it's a working bond. You don't necessarily have to, like, be best friends with the person you're working with, but you need to have that. There has to be that respect there. But I think it really, really helps if you understand what it's like to be on the other side, and you understand what it's like to be directed. Because sometimes directors or filmmakers will want the actors to, like, you know, look in a certain way, or, you know, that's fine. You have certain not stage directions, but certain criteria you need to fall under. But after that, it's quite, like, what the fuck am I saying? It's quite an emotional and vulnerable thing to be in front of a camera. And I think everyone should try it once, at least.
Well said. Well said.
Very roundabout way of getting there.
Last, what would your best advice be for, like, young aspiring actors based on what you've learned from your experiences?
I feel so underqualified to be giving anyone advice.
I disagree.
Thank you. I think, in the great words of 98 Degrees and Stevie Wonder from the closing title of Mulan, you have to be true to your heart. You have to be tenacious. You have to be able to go and talk to anyone, and you have to be able to put yourself in you know, maybe not compromising position, but be able to make a fool out of yourself. God, I'm good at that. But you have to, yeah, just take a minute and think about what is important to you and focus on getting there. But maybe don't worry about going to drama school. You don't have to go to like RAD or LAMDA or any of those. You have a dream, you have a path, that's fine. But sometimes it might kind of skew left or right, and that's fine, because you might actually end up somewhere much better than you originally thought.
Amazing. That was fabulous advice. And please remind me how to pronounce your surname.
It's Chaoimhe.
That's mad. But O'Keefe in English.
O'Keefe in English, yeah.
Okay, that's crazy. The next podcast we'll have to go into Irish history, and you have to explain all these crazy names to me.
Definitely.
100%. But yeah, thank you so much, Féadha. Yeah, always interesting to hear your perspective on things, and I hope you are weathering this crazy fucking lockdown better than me, because I'm fucking done with it.
Oh. Well, the campsites are opening up here soon, so if you can find a way to get to Ireland, we've got plenty of fields and seas that you can see, multiple seas that you can come and be in.
Yeah, I'm very much entertaining the possibility of just becoming like a farmer or something and living a peaceful life on a farm. Maybe a vegan farm. I don't know. We'll see. maybe I'll change.
You can come and look after the spuds.
Cool. I like potatoes very much. But yeah, thank you so much, Féadha. And
thanks for having me.
Your day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Take it easy.